It's my great fortune and joy to introduce and welcome His Grace Krishna Chander prabhu to ISKCON Gurugram, and especially with this session today. So some of you were here this morning, but most of you were not there. So it'll take me a few sessions to actually speak about Prabhuji's contributions. So I'll briefly try to summarize them. So Prabhuji is a very loyal and dedicated disciple of His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj for the last almost 40 years. He has been serving in various capacities in the Radha Gopinath temple and other ISKCON temples as well. Prabhuji, almost every aspect of the Radha Gopinath temple, whether it is management, whether it's the school or the Bhaktivedanta hospital or the GV, so Prabhuji has made major contributions in each of those areas. So Prabhuji is the chairman of the Leadership Council, which is a group of devotees, 8 devotees who actually manage everything of the Radha Gopinath temple. He's also the chairman of the counselor group. So Radhanath Maharaj has a very extensive counselor system. Prabhuji is the chairman of the counselor group. And Prabhuji is also the chairman of the Bhaktivedanta hospital. He's the chairman of the Gopal's Garden School. And he's played a major role in the development of Govardhan Eco Village. And apart from all these devotional services that he does, he and his family, so he has 3 children and who are actively involved in the temple, and his dear wife Radha Priya Mataji, she's like the mother of the congregation. So she also does so much service, especially for the dresses of the deities. So she was not well, unfortunately, so she couldn't come. And apart from all the services, Prabhuji also has had a very prominent business career. So he comes from a very renowned business family, the Mafatlal group family. He was sharing this morning, his 4 generations have, 4 generations ago this business started and it's developed into a substantial business. He has public limited companies under the Mafatlal group, and Prabhuji is also the chairman of the Mafatlal group, under which there are 2 public limited companies. One is the textile company, and then there is also the Nozzle, which is deals in rubber. It's a rubber industry. So, and Prabhuji also runs many different NGOs. There's a NGO, BEF, BEF, yes. Right. So Prabhuji is the president of that, and serving across 15 different states and impacting like 80,000 poor families, and helping them through in their development of their water structure, in their area, and so Prabhuji is playing an active role in that as well. And apart from that, Prabhuji has a very active role in education. So he's trying to promote alternative education. I think there are a few schools that he's supporting personally, and yesterday we were discussing in Divine Prasadam that this is something he wants to do more actively. There's one school run by devotees, Vidya Kshetra, like where I also took Gopi a few years ago in Bangalore. And then there are some 2 other schools. One is in, I think, Karnataka.
Yeah, it's in Bagalkot, the 3 hours from Hubli.
3 hours from
there. This for the village.
Village school. There's one school also in Assam. So Prabhuji is really trying to, he really believes in we need to set up something alternative for the education system. So we're very grateful, despite all his responsibilities, all his services, Prabhuji has make time. I personally met Prabhuji 20 years ago in Vrindavan. I was doing some service at the book table, so he came and bought Guru Maharaj's books, and we talked for some time, and then from then onwards, Prabhuji's had he's mentored me the last 20 years in almost every aspect of my life. I remember when I was going through the marriage process, I was so bewildered, and maybe even after 20 years, I'm still bewildered in some areas. Some areas are sober.
I'll check with West Prema.
So, Prabhuji guided me through that, and in the last 20 years, whatever, any household things that I want to discuss, or business things or financial things, I always take Prabhuji's advice. So, I've been very fortunate to have had his guidance and affection. So let us enthusiastically welcome Prabhuji by loudly chanting the Maha Mantra together.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Om Gyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Yavishesh Shunyavadi Paschata Deshitaya. I feel honestly very undeserving. I think Nitai Prabhu lets his sentiments overcome him and when he speaks. But I'm very, very, very happy to have a chance to meet all of you. My deep pleasure. So I wanted to talk briefly. What we'll do is we also have a Kirtan program, so we'll try and leave half an hour for question answers and half an hour where I can share some thoughts before. So the topic I suggested was how do we sustain our Sankirtan mission through the Grihastha Ashram, because we are all Grihasthas, like 99.99999% of the world. So I remember for several years after I joined ISKCON, I just assumed that Grihastha means married. Unmarried is Brahmachari, Grihastha is married. It took many years later I realized that there's a Grihamedi, Grihastha, and what it means. And that was a significant understanding, because first of all, Grihastha Ashram, so I realized that like the other ashrams, this is also an ashram. An ashram means you take ashray, you take a shelter, you take shelter of the Lord. And Grihastha Ashram, so Grihastha Ashram, Grihastha Ashram, where husband and wife, a family comes together to worship Lord Krishna, put Krishna at the center of their house. And then there are many common facets with all the other ashrams. Grihastha Ashram is also, it's also for devotional service. It has some licenses, but it is, and it has an equal opportunity to go back to Godhead. So, the one difference is that the Grihastha Ashram is the only ashram where we are allowed to make money and the privilege of supporting the other three ashrams, Brahmachari, Vanprastha and Sannyas. So basically what I understood is that it is a very serious, solemn responsibility and a very privileged opportunity. It is. So it's not just like you get married and then like, okay, fine. So it also doesn't mean that it's a very intimidating and there's no fun, there's we're all the time under pressure. No, absolutely not. It is a very joyful feeling. It's a responsibility. It's just that we the awareness is there. So when we talk of Sankirtan Mission, we are all aware how we have got the opportunity to come in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement through Srila Prabhupada and all the Guru Parampara, and looking to the state of the world, we all are fully understanding how more and more complicated it is getting, more and more fearsome is getting, whether at the children's level, at the youth level. The more you elaborate, the more you think, just wondering what will be the next generation. You feel like a disconnect. My office is, I have to pass some leading colleges and I just take the U-turn and go. And I've seen over the last 20, 30 years, and these are supposed to be where toppers come there. But the kind of atmosphere there, just wonder, So it may be temporary, maybe we take a liberty, but what happens is that these become at a very formative years impressions, and you can go into different areas. So we have been taught that the highest aim of our life should be to try to pursue love of Krishna in a joint cooperative way. So that's why we come in the temple together and we have an opportunity to work together. We're so different people, simultaneously one and different. Achinta Bheda Bheda Tattva is also applicable for us, because the similarity is the pursuit of devotional service. Lord Krishna, we are all His children. But the difference is that we are made different. Every single one of us are different. We have a very different background. So, having said that, we see that in society, the goal is very different. And that doesn't make us superior, by no means, because we are just more fortunate. Now, what we do out of it is another thing, that at least we recognize that we have to discharge a responsibility, but we also have an end date in mind, in the sense that we've been given a birth, at some point in time we will be departing, and then this period is a fraction of a second in the life cycle that we have come through millions of births. So this is mentally acceptable. Now we're trying to put into practice is where we get together, and then we get in touch with devotees. We have the opportunity to come and serve, and then we also have our ashram, Grihastha Ashram, because that's where we spend the maximum time. When I say this, I'm seeing very, very serious faces. So it is natural that when we spend the most intimate times with and everyone spends the most intimate time with their spouse, because where you can be yourself. You can't be yourself in your occupation. You have to be formal, you have to be correct. You can't speak your mind, you can't behave the way you want, right? Even in the temples, there is a correct behavior. But then, if you are in a bad mood, where does it come out? Or if you have to get angry, where does it come out? It may not be, so it's a backlash that comes, you just let your head out. So if the atmosphere is not something which can sustain that, then the stress comes. And then it affects our devotional service also, and then we wonder, why is it happening? Because we both are devotees, we both want to go ahead. But the issue is that we have a false egos, everyone has a false ego, and that comes together also. So in the beginning, when a boy and the girl come together and they're devotees, so they have a very idealistic view sometimes, that the boy may think that, Lord Brahma has made her only for me, and the girl will think that, Vishnu has sent him and I will also serve him the way Lakshmi serves Vishnu. And then we read Krishna book in the night, we'll have a glass of milk and go to sleep, and there'll be no problem, happily ever. It doesn't work that way. Only thing that we have forgotten our false egos. So and when we are too close, it happens. Like even sometimes with our parents, it happens. But the parents, what happens, because we have born with them, so the mother and the father are able to absorb. You speak anything, sometimes you may do atrocious behavior, but it's your own blood. So you can absorb it. Here is two strangers have come together in a sense. Even if there's a love marriage, but still, how much time have they spent? and then they are making together for a long period of time. And along with it, they have been given the responsibility that, okay, this awareness that we are in Krishna consciousness, this is our life. So it's enormous that there's something I'm supposed to do, and there's something which is the way I'm reacting to situations around me. So there is a dichotomy, and that becomes a challenge for us. But the Bhagavatam says that, if without having this goal, life is of no use. Shrama eva hi kevalam. The only devotional service is our goal. So anything that we do, how do we convert it into a mood of service? So first, if we start recognizing that the society today is highly individual driven, and particularly the Western model, and it's slowly coming into the cities, there is it's such a driven so individually. So at least here family has a sustenance, but if you see in the West, the families, they don't even believe in families practically. Very, very few, because by the time they're 18 or 19, they're supposed to be breaking out on their own. And even when they get married, sometimes they don't get married. Sometimes when they get married also, they have contracts to say. So it is really seeing that what is I, me and mine. So in such a mood, we talk of cooperation, it becomes very, very difficult. And then if we come to India, we see that there is a mood of a religion, religious people. But then even here, there is a lot of gestures, there's a lot of tokenism to enjoy. Festivals like whether it's Holi or Janmashtami or Diwali. The last part is only about the significance. The other part is Jalsa Karna hai, how do we have great fun. So it's just when you go to the temple, you have, so it becomes a gesture, it becomes only something which you demonstrate and you feel nice that okay, I have done my lot. It's like a compartment. I have done this part, is done. So I can do the rest of it. Something like how in the Christians, that Sundays you can go and you can confess, other days you can do what you want, and then everything is squared up. So that mentality also happens. So basically, why it becomes important for us is, again I say that we are not special. We are not special. Of course, I do believe that devotees are very special, no doubt. But we need to see that we have been very fortunate. That's why we are special, that we have been somehow given this opportunity. But why? Because I think that in my experience, I see that with all its challenges, ISKCON is one rare organization which is spread over the world. But the philosophy is amazing. It's perfect because Krishna has spoken it. But also because there is a demonstration of how every ashram can really be successful. So then, so at least we have a model. We also have examples, and not just in Shastras, but also in our own contemporary last 20, 30, 40 years. We see, I mean, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was only just over 100 years ago. And it's one of the greatest examples in so many ways. But even after that, so that's why we are special. So, and when we look to one side, we discuss that how the modern society completely breaks all the shackles and they're totally individualistic. On the other hand, you have people who are either fanatical in religion, whether it is whichever, Hindu, Muslim, whatever, but there's a fanaticism, or there could be a tokenism where they just use religion. Okay, I've done my duty, go to the temple, okay, baki, I do what I want. So where is the middle path? And then again, how do we bring it in a relationship? So when we talk of Sankirtan Mission, the spreading the Krishna consciousness mood, this opportunity is there for us. It's the philosophy, but the philosophy has to be backed by our own personal examples also, to the extent we get. And effort is everything that counts, because people do look at it. One action speaks louder than words. So people will see. So that's why it becomes important. Nothing is perfect, nothing is easy, but our question is that what can we do to improve that? And some of the obstacles that come in this is basically when we have obstacles in our life, either people may say that, no, I don't have any obstacles, or we say that I will solve my own problem, I can do it myself, if they have some success somewhere and they feel that I can do it. Or if they feel, no, the problem is so big that just forget about it. So nobody really goes about actually seeing it in the context of the creator is there, because you can't take a problem without going to the origin. And Krishna is the one who puts the problem. If you think your boss is a problem, if you think your competitor is a problem, if you think your neighbor is a problem, if you think your spouse is a problem, Krishna is in their heart. And Krishna is wanting to see our response to those situations. So Krishna is, if you want to say, he is the center of everything, including the test he is giving us, because we have turned to him. So therefore it becomes important that we make an effort to have a stability in Grihastha Ashram, because we can't really push for our Sankirtan mission and without having a certain amount of peace and calmness. Now, it's an uncomfortable situation because it's not like we don't have issues at home. Everyone has some. So sometimes to bring that discussion, people feel a little uncomfortable. But actually, it is not personal. It is like we know that human nature is such that I mentioned we have our tantrums, we have our egos, right? Everyone comes with their egos. The issues that we acknowledge, and then we see how we can improve upon it. So I would say that even in spiritual life, this is very much needed. Good examples are also necessary. So the first and most important principle is that when devotees get married, at least I'm talking of devotees, because they have taken a responsibility, is that there is an unrelenting desire to make the marriage work. We really have to make sure. So we may say, okay, I have my marriage is working well. I mean, that's fine. Most marriages I would say would be working, but there with some struggles. But the desire has to be uppermost. So even if some problems come, we see that desire has to be so strong that we feel that what can I do to improve it? That it is not just one person, both the persons are necessary. And some of the issues that do come up as challenges, I'll just touch a few which are challenges and a few which make it very easier, nice. One would be what is people generally call incompatibility. Incompatibility, people, that is used very quickly and say that, well, we were not made for each other. But actually, if you see, worse than being alone is living with the person you don't like. And nobody likes that. If somebody doesn't like me, how can I spend the rest of my life? So we have to question, is it that we may be made differently, but at least we should be making an every effort to see. And a lot of the people I see, I think efforts are not really made, because it's easy to stay with someone's good qualities. Everyone can stay with good qualities. You develop friendship. But how easy is it to stay with someone's faults? How easy is it to be staying with someone's faults? And can we say, is there anyone in the room who says he doesn't have faults or she doesn't have faults? I have my faults. That means somebody is staying with my faults. I should be also staying with someone's faults. Faults are there. Faults means weaknesses or challenges, there may be irritations, whatever. But those are not a thing which people will, that we as devotees particularly, the responsibility that we have, why we should take it to such a level. So, because staying, with making an attempt to stay with the challenges of our own, living with our own faults and living with our spouse's faults becomes a special burden then. Then we have a challenge if we don't attempt to rectify it. And then we face the issues dealing with it. So, then what do we do? So, if we look at incompatibilities, what people just talk, then many incompatibilities are such that some can be sorted out, some can be laughed at, because it is a very small thing. Sometimes there's something which you just ignore because it is not worth it. But none of them need to be of a size which is really, unless there is abuse involved, or unless there's a strong, heavy opposition to some of our main objectives, like somebody is opposing us to be a devotee. So sometimes our own actions may cause that problem. And why I'm mentioning all this is because we are, the theme we said is Sankirtan Mission, and it's a general topic. I'm discussing it because I don't know the individual situation, but I've seen among hundreds of couples in congregations that especially the younger ones, where the challenge comes when they are very keen to do it, but each one thinks that they can manage on their own, and if only the other, my partner changes, then my problem is solved. This is where the thing, as if that I don't need to change. The only problem is he or she changes, everything becomes sorted, which is not the case because everyone has to contribute to it. And when we progress in Krishna consciousness, the more we advance in Krishna consciousness, the less the failings appear. The failings appear more when we are actually very neophyte, and then it's like we're concentrating on that. A mature couple will look at the closeness, the things that they have gone through for so many years, they've seen so many things. You ask any couple which have gone for say 40 or 50 years, they would have seen their parents depart from this world, they would have seen some loved ones in the family, they would have seen upheavals in their financial situation, maybe some tragedies, different kind of tragedies. So many things would have happened. Eventually, you look back and say, whom do you discuss with? Some of the your life aspects. If I take my example, we went through a very difficult time in 1982, 83, 84. So that's 42 years ago, and that has actually, in a sense, made us come to ISKCON. Now, when I look back, sometimes I speak to Radha Priya and we say that, we are the only two left. We don't have anyone to discuss with. All those people are gone. Those who caused the problem, those who took us to court and various things. So and in so many details, in between she went through a surgery, and so many aspects happened. So you share and you look back and say, so not that now who remembers what happened, on a particular day, a particular time, you may have spoken something. This is all gone. So we don't make it too big. So His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj says one thing at many of the marriage ceremonies when he's called to speak. And one thing he always stresses, he says, don't make it too big. It's not worth it. It's typical that the problem is not worth it. And really it's true, in the context of the entire challenges that we see in the world, and if you look back and see so many things are happening in our life over decades, this is not something which, and nobody's deliberately trying to do it. So it may be our nature, it may be our background, training, maybe lack of understanding. It takes time. So little bit large-heartedness can be. And nobody's like Mandodari. Mandodari was so, she could understand, she lived with Ravan's failing, she knew. And she didn't, she still had the loyalty to him. So we can't expect them, to be in that. So these differences, small differences can become big, and natures are different. So typically one person is a spender, one person is a saver. It could be the husband or the wife. One person likes spicy food, one person likes mild food. One person is very organized, one person is disorganized. And through that is a catch-all phrase, but through that, and that manifests in various things. For many years, one irritant to me was because I am maybe too fetish on time management. I'm very, my whole family thinks I'm crazy about that, and none of them saw this thing. So, go to the airport, go to somewhere else. So I expect everyone to be on time. And here they choose to be transcendental, The time is so it really used to bug me a lot. And then, everything's to be done efficiently, this to be done, this to be done, so. And my wife has absorbed so much of it, Then one day when she told me, she said, I'm not your secretary, I'm your wife. Then it dawned on me, because I'm so used to in the office, everything is, you just say once and it's organized, everything is organized. It doesn't have to be at home, people are different. So similarly, but she tolerated that. So, we just spot that and see how, now it's a laughable thing, but actually at that time when you're going through, it becomes, it's on top of some other issues. So, it becomes a very aggravated issue. So if you really look, sometimes there are serious issues, but then those serious issues become worse because the small issues have let it be festered. Chota sa wound hota hai, you let that fester, and then when a bigger problem comes, those small wounds also come up. So unless we have a certain comfort level on the smaller issues, the big issues will become big because of that. So one is in comparison. Second is of course weakness of character. Could be that one person may be not. Say one person comes to Krishna consciousness. Always one will come first, the other one comes later, and even after taking initiation, somebody may not be able to follow strongly. So that's not no reason to feel superior, no reason to reject the other person. We can take help, and we have to try and do our best with it. Also, inability to listen. When people talk, sometimes they don't like to. Everyone wants to talk at the same time. Basically, each one wants to feel valued, that you are important, that you have. Everyone is busy, but within that is there space. Sometimes husbands feel that after the children come, then there's no place for me. Because now that those were the days. Now there's no time. The wife will feel that now he's got his commitment in a temple. He's busy. There's hardly any time. So actually, it is something which it is not. It's a matter of priority. It's not a matter of time. Time will come, because with technology today, there are so many things can be. If the other person needs to feel valued, if we just say why do we feel valued by, let's say, the temple president or some devotees in the temple or whoever your friends are, you see that because they listen to you, they act kindly with you, they consider you, they are responding to you, they're concerned about you, right? They know some details about you. So these are ways you come to know. So that doesn't need time. That doesn't need to be physically present also. For instance, with WhatsApp messages, there used to be post-its earlier. Now with technology, so if you remember someone's birthdays, you remember your wife's father's birthday, that would be the clincher, because it's very important. So, or the wife would think of the husband, remind them, this is your birthday. So small things, birthdays are there, health issues are there. Now, if you are working and somebody is not well at home, you phone back. It doesn't take more than 5 seconds to say everything is fine. So concern can be expressed in so many ways. So if this acts of kindness, which we are very happily doing with all devotees around us or our friend circle, it can be very easily done there. And sometimes when we have a problem, we can't apologize. That becomes a challenge. So these are the things which add on. In the morning we were talking about in a different context, when I said that Hare Krishna is the 2 most important words. And then the next 2 most important words is follow-up, but that was in a different context. But I would say the next 2 most important words are thank you and I'm sorry. Because they rarely come at home. Many couples feel that that's something which is, we are very, if you're in the bus and somebody gets up and gives the seat, you're saying thank you. Or sometimes your hand hits someone, oh, I'm so sorry. It comes very easily. But when it comes at home, somehow we feel that either it's taken for granted or it looks very odd. You're appreciating things, Maybe my wife will think I'm flattering her if I say that, you put, you made such a nice item or whatever, we made some extra effort has been made in spite of challenges. So these are the things which are necessary to, bring the balance to so that when there are problems, and there will be, but at least the value is there and the feeling is there that this is something which is unquestionable. That commitment is so strong because I am important in someone's life. That's the we need to question that. Am I doing enough to make the other person feel that he or she is important in my life? And ideally, that should be the question there. But someone starts. So once that happens, then no matter what, you have differences. You'll be charitable to the kind of tone also. Sometimes some flare up happens, but if it's already late, if I'm convinced about it, then that will just maybe for a night or so and that's over. But otherwise it can become a big thing because you haven't really laid the fabric. And the world is full of selfishness. So if you were to bring selfishness into our lives, And I'm bringing this because sometimes it can happen even as devotees. Even in a devotional service, we may be selfish because we're only thinking that I want to do this. This for what is, I'm my service, my what I need to do myself. But even this, if we were to look at the whole family together as a unit and see that I may have to sacrifice what I need to do, that may be necessary. Two very good examples of selflessness, how it worked very well in our Shastras. When Ram was ordered to by Kaikeyi to go to the forest, and then he goes and meets his mother, then he goes and meets, then when Sita ji comes to meet him, and he kind of orders her, you stay at home, and you should take care of mother. Now, one would say that as a chaste wife, she should just accept everything that Lord Ram had said. But no, she actually, it's not that she was defiant, or it's not that she was thinking independently, but she was thinking, out of her complete selflessness, because she was totally surrendered to the Lord. That what did she say? She said, no, she insisted, I'm going to come with you. And she convinced him. And Ram also, from his point of view, he didn't take the view that he didn't overrule her. He accepted, that. So we could see that both it was actually, each was thinking of the other. Because she said, I need to come with you that's my duty, I need to come. And then when he saw that that is her commitment, then he totally agreed. And the second example is also of Sudama and his wife, Sudama Vipra and Krishna's friend. When his wife is so concerned that you go to, she was concerned for him. It was not that she wanted riches, but she said that she couldn't just see him being suffering and he was starving and so poor. And he was not at all keen, because he said that no, that's how my friendship is not meant for this. But then he agreed finally, because in his mind he was thinking that okay, at least for my wife I'll do it. So both didn't speak, but the action he took was only for her. And she was asking to go only because she couldn't bear to see him suffer. So it was a wonderful act of selflessness that both were concerned most about the other person. And things which can really improve our lives one is the most important would be enthusiasm. Enthusiasm, because any service we are told, sometimes when Prabhupada was asked that, Prabhupada, I don't feel enthusiastic, he said, then act enthusiastic. He had said once that what he meant is that the feeling will come later. Because it's a service, you act enthusiastically when you are preaching or chanting. You may not be feeling all right, but give it your best shot. It matters to so many people. So in the same way, we take this service, that we take it enthusiastically and take it as a service. Again, the example we have is of Sukanya. Sukanya was a young princess, and she was ordered to, or she was asked to marry this Chavan Muni. And Chavan Muni was an old, cranky sadhu, very cranky, very difficult. But she so enthusiastically, she said, I'm going to make my marriage a success. And she made it a success. She won him over by a lack of pride and support. And, they're extremely happy marriage. So basically, it's our actions have a lot to do. And once again, I'm putting the context that we have a major responsibility as devotees, that we are in this incredible service of Sankirtan movement. And if people watch us, people are affected when we talk to them in so many ways. I mean, because each one, what they're suffering, we don't know, what they're going through. They may be externally successful, but when they come across devotees, they know that they're representing Prabhupada. And if we are able to convincingly speak to them, which we can do when we are also convinced of ourselves, then that helps. Second would be gratitude. When we can, because if you have a deep sense of gratitude, and we too feel, but we have it selectively. We are grateful to Prabhupada, we are grateful to our Guru Maharaj. But if we see in the larger context that we are having, how much we have got which we didn't deserve, then everything Krishna is planning, then this also, my marriage is also, there must be a reason. If there are challenges, that must be to improve for me to improve. So, and if the wife, husband thinks that my wife is the sacred property of Krishna, not my property, and consider that she is a Vaishnavi, and similarly the wife thinks that he is a Vaishnava, in addition to being my husband, then it would be, if they would consider that it's a Vaishnava aparadh if I'm trying to offend. Each one would think that. So Vaishnava aparadh, we don't want to do it, but we don't see it in that light. Our tendency would be to see, when we come too close, familiarity breeds contempt, and then when we look at this flaws, we become very close. And then we point out those problems, forgetting that when you put one finger, three fingers are pointing to us. So we also have. Somehow we have to remind ourselves that if we have to correct, we have to do it in a way which we would also appreciate if someone was to correct us. Third is appreciation. Expressing our appreciation is very, very important, and a very nice example is of the Brahmins, who when Krishna and Balaram were in the forest and they wanted some prasad, and they told the Gopas that you go and talk to the Brahmins who are sitting for the puja, we can have some prasad. So they initially ignored and said no. So then Krishna said, go to the Brahmin Patnis. And they enthusiastically, spontaneously, immediately arranged and gave. And to the credit of the Brahmins, they were humble enough to say that, they appreciated. If you read the Krishna book, it's so nicely explained that they said, they're superior to us, they've done such wonderful service, we should have done it, it was our mistake. So they acknowledged it. So that is something which, at least even if we do that, then Krishna is going to help us also. So in terms of appreciation, if one golden rule we have is, whatever we do, are we pleasing Prabhupada? Somehow if we are able to remind ourselves in every aspect, but especially in the most, you can say, sensitive matters where challenges happen, it means would Prabhupada be happy, would our Guru Maharaj be happy? Another thing which can really help is affection. And I have seen devotees, when they come to the temple, somehow they feel that there was a time when even speaking to each other in temples, and they were embarrassed because they would think that others would say, hey, how can you talk in the temple? I mean, the husband and wife, but talking. I'm not talking about English, just talking. That was the kind of mood, they think, it has to be like we are completely, we have to be, we don't recognize each other. Somehow that kind of thing. No, that is, so in this affection, Krishna, I like to read what Krishna says in the Krishna book. My dear Rukmini, you know that because we are householders, we are always busy in many household affairs and long for a time when we can enjoy some joking words between us. This is our ultimate gain in household life. And then Prabhupada comments that actually householders work very hard day and night, but all fatigue of the day's labor is minimized as soon as they meet husband and wife together and enjoy life in many ways. Lord Krishna wanted to exhibit himself as being like an ordinary householder who delights himself by exchanging joking words with his wife. So, it really helps. There's a humor. We all like humor. We like to have. So, if that is exchanged and there's signs of affection, it's also a sign of consideration, a sign of accepting, a sign of value. We value the other person. So these are the things. Gratitude, affection, kindness. What we expect others to do us, and what really we feel nice. I mean, all of these. We really, when somebody talks something genuinely, gives us a compliment, we feel so nice. It's not like we become proud, but we just feel nice. So it is a natural feeling. We get drawn to that person. So why can't it be at home? So these are the things which can really cement our relationship when inevitably there will be weaknesses. Inevitably there may be a tantrum, inevitably some slip-ups will be there. But there is room for that. If there is room, then this will withstand it. But there is a word they call in psychology, I think, the emotional bank account. You may have heard of that. So it's like in the bank account how you deposit 100 rupees, 1,000 rupees, 10,000 rupees, and then you say you have a 50,000 account, and then suddenly you withdraw 20,000, you still have a positive bank account. So emotional bank account is you have lots of small acts of appreciation, kindness, fun, enjoyment, joint responsibility with the children, so many things. These are all acts of positive thing. And then the withdrawal is when you have a bust up. you have some flare up, some issues come up. But if you already have a positive bank account, then this will withstand it. But when the bank account khali hai, then it becomes very difficult. Then you are already in the negative and it becomes worse. So the same situation could be seen, there is a more charitable way to look, and there's the other person can be very, may not be so charitable. So therefore it is very important. And finally, in the last most important is of course Krishna consciousness. This is the one thing which can really, if we can see things, as that we are here for a mission. Grihastha Ashram is not the goal of life. Grihastha Ashram is not that we are born for that the end of my life is that I get 9 or 10 on 10. No, it is important because it's a stepping stone. How do we discharge devotional service? If we are not, how do we get charged up in spiritual life? If we have a very difficult relationship. Now there are situations where there are people who it's an impossible situation. It's totally one-sided. We have seen that somebody is abandoned, somebody is and they have really struggled on their own. That's what Krishna wants. But I'm talking of in large numbers, which is not the case. There are two good people, two devotees, but everyone has their weaknesses. So if that's a situation, we may be inadvertently making things worse for the other person. So therefore, somehow if we can, and the best way to try to do it combinedly is, invite devotees home, you go to devotees, you meet them, and have friendship. Children have friendship with other children, the Matajis have their groups. Somehow everyone needs, so the busier we get and more opportunities will come, especially linked to the temple being in the central part. Whether we come physically to the temple or we're doing activities around the temple, it keeps us busy. Then sometimes, irritants are there, you can, it's not a big thing, you'll go on. I mean, life will go on because you have lots of things to do. And sometimes the irritants will not remain for long. But if the Krishna conscious objective is not there, then this becomes a big thing. Then say, I must get rid of this problem. This person must change and I'm not going to accept it. Then you become, your battle lines are drawn. So ultimately we see the larger aspect that we're trying to make, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, the home can be as good as Vaikuntha, if we try to do jointly, cooperatively, then that means that we are on the right track. And in Krishna book, Prabhupada also says a very nice statement that the greatness of a person is estimated by how much he or she can tolerate provoking situations. The greatness of a person is estimated by how much he or she can tolerate provoking situations. He doesn't say that greatness is somebody who earns 1,000 crores in 5 years, or somebody who's achieved in any material ways. So provoking situations to tolerate is so difficult. That's why Prabhupada says that this person really it's a great person. So we may not be at that level, but at least if we accept that I have to make an effort to tolerate, and it is applying to all of us, to myself included. That happens. How we can do. And I don't know whether I mentioned here or in the morning. I'm eternally grateful to my wife because she tolerated so many things in our first 5, 6, 7 years before we came to ISKCON. Just calmly accepting it and just living it. So which really has left such a mark on me, a deep appreciation that someone can tolerate and not just gritting your teeth and tolerating. Tolerate this happiness, okay, and it's all one-sided. So clearly, then we see that becomes a sign of greatness. And we have so many examples. We talk of Lakshman, but what about his wife Urmila? We talk of Kaushalya, but what about Sumitra? If you see Urmila's situation, I mean, she had nothing to do in one sense, but she could have said that my husband, he's going for 14 years, and what has he got to do with it? I mean, in today's world, that would have been a natural reaction. Why you have to go? But she was so happy, and she didn't even, blink an eye. Sumitra was so happy. Both the sons are serving her two brothers. No ego issues. Take Suniti, for instance. Dhruv Maharaj's mother. She had so much to think that she was being offended by, she's being put down. But her attitude was that, no, she just said, no, I'm helpless, she encouraged Dhruv to go and find a guru in the forest. Similarly, Kunti Devi. That's another great example. I mean, what her life has gone through. And at the end, in spite of all that, finally when the victory is there and Yudhishthira Maharaj is crowned the emperor of the whole world, that's the time when she's crying and she's breaking down. And what was her worry? That Krishna is going away. Can you imagine? It was all the challenges which she said, oh, as long as Krishna is with us, there was no issue. So, if we see, these are examples for us, not just to appreciate from far, but to say that, can I even get a drop of it? So tolerating, and I'm not being, I know it is a difficulty, I also don't have, but at least I can see, and it's a concern for me if I don't follow that. So if that becomes, our concern, that sometimes you get provoked, even if you're successful 5 out of 10 times, gradually, things will improve. So sometimes the sharp words that come out, sometimes, they're like arrows, they really hurt. And because an intimate person knows exactly what to say, when to say, how to say, right? The tone, and it goes straight in the heart. You just know what to say, what not to say. Only an intimate person knows. And then that leaves a lot of mark. So if you can avoid that, so we get inspiration from people like these, devotees like these, who have tolerated. And Prabhupada says that is the greatness. So it can have massive impact on our lives. And why is it important? Because we are in this special moment, in this time of the world, when we see the hopelessness everywhere. I mean, there is, you see, whether it's terrorism, whether it is, that's a whole new chapter, but there's so many things that are going on. Everyone has their own views. But Krishna is hardly, God is not mentioned anywhere. So we have an opportunity to do something, rectify something. So I'll just stop here because there will be some time for question answers, or any comments. I took a risk because I think I may have touched some raw nerves, but please forgive me by saying what I need.
So before we start the Q&A session, the Matajis have some service for, so if you can leave, because it's 5:45. Huh? We have time? Okay. So you just figure it out. You just leave whenever, because I don't want the program to disrupt that welcome. Huh? Okay, so then we can begin.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
It was such a wonderful and relevant topic today. And you touched upon one aspect of corrections. So, especially in devotee culture, we know that we don't have to see faults, we have to avoid that mentality. And being in an intimate relationship, it's very easy to see faults. And someone we have this duty to sometimes, as a husband, we think that we have a duty to correct our dependents. So that's sometimes a very challenging situation. On one side we have to don't see the correction faults, and other side we have to correct them also. So how to balance it and how to do it in a way that the other person takes it in a positive way. And
So actually, it's not that correction is not needed. Both husband and wife would need. All of us need some correction. It's a matter of how it is done, and how we speak, when we speak, what time we speak. Examples. For instance, if the husband has come home, a long day, difficult day, and the first thing he hears, there's a volley of issues just come out very angrily at him. His reaction is going to be adverse. Similarly, the wife has had a difficult time, so many things, and so the timing and the tone, both are very crucial. So it can be done in a way, and especially not in front of children. You point fingers, because it has a major impact. I remember one of the lasting impressions I have is that my parents in 63 years, I've never, ever, not one time I remember, and my sister is 8 years older, she also, not a single time I remember that they have ever had a difference of opinion in front of us. I'm sure they had differences, but that was a discipline that they never brought it out in our presence, which I realized much later. I said, I've never seen that. But I know their personalities are so different, and there would be issues. So somehow if we can realize that, that's a major service. That okay, how do we do it? And it may be difference of opinion, but we do it behind closed doors. And the other person generally appreciates that it's not done in public. I mean, I have to confess that sometimes I just, you just lash out sometimes. So I used to do that, and then when I realized that it pains the other person, and especially when it's only one-sided. So if we and if we have examples, I had an example in my family. So if somehow correction is not that not needed, and it may, when you say correction means we are clear it is wrong. It may not even be. We may be making it's our judgment. So discussing that may come that look, this is what I think, and if this is the case, and I have a different view, whatever. So then the clarification happens. Maybe there's a correction needed. Maybe actually a view has to be corrected. Whatever. But the point is, it can be done at an appropriate time when things are cooler. When we are behind closed doors and at a different time, because it also gives time to not to immediately react. Sometimes a knee-jerk reaction, then the words also just come out very harshly because it's spontaneous, instinctive. So it gives that opportunity to cool down, and then maybe after 2 hours you may choose your words better. You may see things in a little different light. And the wife also makes want to correct the husband in both ways.
So thanks for the lecture. I think the last statement that greatness of a man is known by how he can tolerate provoking situation, that pretty much summarizes the Grihastha Ashram. But my question is now related to what's next, because Arjuna was told about detachment, that you have to kill this affection of your families and you will have to kill them. So that thought also come in my mind sometimes, that in going forward will I be grihast forever, or will I go to Vanprasth? So if somebody asks me these questions, or I sometimes bluntly say as well that 55 or 60 is an age which I have decided that at that time I will leave my children everywhere, not leave, but I will start getting detachment, because Vanprasth is itself a 10-15 years period, right? So that's something I wanted to discuss.
So, whatever the situation comes, first of all, we need to concentrate whether we are doing what we are doing in the right way. And then any other situation we take, the mentality has to be in a positive way. Like someone, like brahmacharis are told that they should not just join the ashram because they don't want to get married. That's not the reason to join Brahmachari ashram is very positive. There's so many things, there's so many, they're like the doormat. They're told they're like the doormat for the other ashrams. They have to absorb that. They're servants of all the ashrams. So they have to cultivate spiritual knowledge, they have a certain discipline, so many things. So similarly, in the ashram change, any step up we do, it is done in a very positive light. So that can come whenever that comes. But in the meantime, this is a service we are doing. So it's not like we're increasing our attachment. We're doing it, like for instance, we talked about, say, difference of opinion. It's not a very comfortable situation. But decisions have to be made. It could be about children's education, it could be about house, some habits, whatever. So how you do it, I don't think the attachments are going to increase, but you do it as a proper service and you discharge it well. On the contrary, there may be some areas where affection and joking words it can increase affection. But that affection is necessary to discharge at the moment. Yes, of course, we don't want it to that if it's reducing our involvement in temple, devotional service, and gradually we get our spiritual activities get less, that we need to worry about. And I think if we have devotees around us who have to say, hey, what happened? I don't see you or something, the people who are there, so they'll correct it. If that is not happening, then actually during the time that we are in the ashram, we can play a major role, because it's 1 + 1 = 11. Or 1 + 1 = 3, because very motivated, both are happy relatively. This is a comfort level. Basically, we are looking at a comfort level. We are not looking at bliss. There's no bliss. The material life, we say, dukkhalaya mashasham, there's going to be problems. Not necessarily created by someone, but that's the way situations happen. So, but at least we can come to what we don't increase the problem. So that's our goal. And when the opportunity or when the time comes, then that's, if we are in that mood, we'll do it in a consultative way, in a very logical way, in a very responsible way. So that would be hypothetical, but certainly that will be done in that spirit, and a positive way, where I can further contribute to my spiritual life. And people whom I take guidance from, my seniors or my Guru Maharaj, etc., then they would understand me better and they can guide me. So even then, it's not a matter of worried about getting attached more. It's if our children flourish more and they feel confident and comfortable seeing that their parents are happy in a very difficult situation, and sometimes the generations are going to have, it's a serious problem. We see the children when they grow up, even among devotee families, they are in a different situation also. So sometimes there's a communication issue. So at least the husband and wife are together, have a unanimity of view. So for many reasons they need to have identical views in important matters, at least externally, even if they come to a consensus. So the effort is needed. I don't think it will really that worry about getting too attached, because if that happens, then that will be a sign that we are weakening. Then devotees will be around to see, and also we will be worried that we are loosening.
Okay. If I understand it correctly, we have to be detached in the Grihastha Ashram, not attached, and naturally the next ashram will come under the guidance of Krishna.
Yeah. I'm not saying that we should be detached, means detached from the results. Yeah. But when we say appreciation, kindness, gratitude, is not necessarily a sign of. If that means that I'm, very, very strong supporter of my family, it's necessary. But in terms of attachment, means that if I give up everything and just want to, just have a good time with the family and just, go on vacations, whatever, and then that's definitely attachment, which is affecting us. Because ultimately, if the temple, and when I say temple means Prabhupada, temple, deities, services, all of that comes in that circle. If that becomes important for us, automatically, it will be, means sacrifice involved. And Grihastha Ashram is equally a sacrifice ashram compared to others. It's not that this ashram has no sacrifice. So sacrifice is hone wala hai, but we'll be done in a better spirit. Yeah, we all don't feel sacrificing or coming to the temple. That's because you are convinced about it. So many things, in the family, you'll be able to do it because that you are able to do. But so sacrifice, if you're following that, that's the best antidote to feeling that I'm going to be attached. Because the attachments will make us not take up sacrifices and do what my senses feel. So we are not looking at the senses feeling nice. We are really looking at doing my duty. And my duty is to, if I can make my spouse feel comfortable, and I'm deeply grateful for her or for him, it's also a service, and it's a very happy, necessary situation. That's what I think.
Thank you for the beautiful class. My
maybe a
query
little louder,
is,
you want the mic?
yeah, no, it's okay. So so my query is like whether it is our immediate family or the extended family. So something we have done in the past. So because of that, people tend to have a perception of us, and it carries along with time.
Means others have a perception.
Others have a perception about us, and then even if we are trying genuinely to, make things better. So because of that perception, that point is not getting communicated, or that message doesn't go, because there is a kind of a wall. So in that situation, what to do?
So whose opinions you want to change? I mean, it can't be the whole world, but because there we can't please everyone. So you need to see who. It's important that the people you value or you respect, their opinions are important. So if they have a worry or an anxiety or a question about us, we need to clarify that. But if you take the general large numbers, because people's perceptions are not the same. They all have different perceptions.
I'm more concerned. What I meant, like in the beginning, I mentioned about the immediate family and say parents. That way.
Your parents or your in-laws?
Maybe both.
Well, I mean, if I have to generalize, because I don't know the situation, you are saying that the perception remains in spite of efforts being done. You need to check with someone and see whether you're actually making that effort to make the perception change. It's a general statement, because if you say there are 5 or 6 people and they all have the same perception and not changing, and maybe one need to question that whether we are, the intent may be there, but it is not seen that way. So where is it? Is it missing in the or maybe the intent is half-hearted? I don't know. Or maybe in spite of that they're not changing. So, but at least what you can't control finally the person. What you can control, you can at least re-question, whether you are really making an effort. And you can take consultation from somebody whom you trust.
Just one connecting question. I asked this question in the morning as well, that at the end it is about two maybe I am right versus you are right? Now, giving your lecture right now, I understood that I have to learn the art of, like Hindi mein bolte jhukna usse. I don't know what we call it in English, but that what he mentioned, like with my parents, I have my parents, like my wife, Saas, Babu, everything goes on in my house. So they, with the lecture I just heard from you, I have interpreted that Krishna inside them is teaching me the art of
Bowing down.
bowing down. Is that the right understanding? Because you mentioned that Krishna is inside them as well.
Yes.
He is teaching you.
So
How
Krishna inside them, so he wants to see our response. He wants to see how we respond to situations. But doesn't mean that, so when I say jhukna means that means surrender, means you just give up second inch, aap jo bolte hain, theek hai, main galat hu. Not that way, because you may be right. So is that what you meant? That,
then I need to understand that
yeah.
when मेरी क्वेश्चन मेरे दिमाग में आई कब झुकना चाहिए कब नहीं झुकना चाहिए.
So the guiding, the dividing line would really, that's where Krishna and what he represents and the movement and Prabhupada, that is, means devotional service and spiritual life. Because that genuine spiritual life is not discriminatory. So that is an absolute. So if you see against that comparison and then see whether am I doing like a crude example, but if something where your own spiritual practice is being seriously impeded, then you can't bow down. You would really have to take. But it may be somewhere greyish, black and white nahi hoga. But so the judgment is generally against that. But otherwise our egos come in the way. It is just that because I don't want to be hurt. It could be. And I don't want to be told by someone. How much we trust our mind. So I think the guiding line has to be against these spiritual practices.
So if I'm just repeating my 4 principles and 16 now, because I know all this online doesn't affect that. They are not into my parents or my wife or anybody who I argue with.
Yeah.
They are not breaking that English non-veg or you have alcohol or addiction. They are not doing that.
Right.
The argument are
Other aspects.
On those aspects, if I bow down, then it is teaching me an art of surrender.
So then, see, as you said, so your spiritual principles and practices is not the issue. When nobody is impeding, then it's only a matter of you and your mind, and you do it. The rest of the thing, it's really, I mean, you may be right in some cases, you may not be right, or you're right, but you still may say, "Chodo nahi, it's not a big thing." So that's intelligence which comes because you see the larger picture. Sometimes you may see that in the interest of unity or in the interest of comfort, there are areas where my wife is supporting me, but here I don't agree with her. But I mean, it's not a big thing. Let me just let it be, so that the larger issue, because there is cooperation, there is so you have to take the totality. It could be that. So then, but if that's why I said that if you're not impeded, then these are all decisions. Someone may say, I want to stay in this flat or that flat, I want to do this or that, I want to have this or, these are very particular issues within families. And it could be social, could be traditional, the practices are there. I'll just give an example, different type, but, when we started these Kartik Yatras, so in the early 90s when we just started, so we had a habit of tradition of Diwali means, there's everyone in the family gets together, we go and meet and so on. And suddenly that stopped because Kartik means Diwali and we always go elsewhere. So my mother was quite upset. And, but her upset means like she was a bit scared of me. So her upset was, she said, I'm going to complain to Maharaj. So I said, okay, complain. So she did speak to Maharaj, but then it was so diluted, no? But I didn't realize then, I saw later that she was upset that, this tradition, aap log kya kar rahe hain? Everyone just goes off and we are. But Maharaj just laughed and she never brought it up again. So I took it that it is not so, it's okay. I mean, Kartik Yatra is a time when you meet all the devotees, people from different cities and all that. And it's not that other festivals are not there. So, I thought that I'm not going to change. I mean, I'm there for other festivals like that. So, we'll have to make our own judgments in a as best the way we can. Because these are, I would say, more social, more non-spiritual issues, but important. It may be occupation related, but yeah.
At a materialistic level, like even in the corporates, we have a session around conflict management.
Yeah.
Right? So difference of opinions, and there are different strategies to handle those conflicts, like negotiating, incorporating, collaborating. I think if we keep our spiritual goal in mind, then we can have those strategies around these such conflicts also.
Absolutely, I agree. So there, because we immediately put a priority, and this is most important. Other things are opinions, my opinions, other people's opinions. They may be built on various other factors. Then you just, but there again, if the ego comes and says, I must be right, I'm dominant, it has to be. Sometimes the husband may feel that, then that could be an issue. But then you say, okay, just children, some things you let go. Like I said, in time management, I chhod diya. But now my wife is much more punctual. She'll be ready sometime before. So it's like that. Any questions on the Mataji? I take it that if there's no question means they're in full agreement. Yes, ma'am. Hare Krishna.
How we can maintain same level of enthusiasm and same level of motivation of Sankirtan in our daily life? Like sometimes we feel very motivated to attend Mangal Aarti services, but sometimes we just want to take break. So how we can maintain the same level of enthusiasm daily we feel it?
When I discover that answer, I'll let you know, because I also have the same question. No, I think, see that we are humans and we are going to be affected by moods. Sometimes so many aspects may be there. I mean, sometimes we can't even decipher what is bothering. But we have to see, if it's going on for many days is one thing, but everyone has, something may have just happened. It could be, there are lots of things, with the family or staff or neighbors or etc. So I think if it's one-off like this, happens a few times in a month or so, I don't have an answer. But the thing is that the protection is that we have to have association, and so therefore doing what we want to do, we follow the principle, instead of doing what we want to do, doing what we need to do. So if we then question ourselves and then see at a later time, when we are not feeling low, that is it that can I do something to improve it may be that I've become, I'm in a very happy zone. Say you've gone out for some time and you're distant for some reason, maybe, and then you find that, the practices are not so critical at this moment. Could be as an example. Then in which case, at least examining, and then we say, okay, now I know what I need to do. I can do it by phone. I can, I can do it online. I can come to the temple. I take up, just get into the mood. If I can't come for Mangalarti, I come for the evening or afternoon. So there's proactiveness as much as we can do. But I find that when we are going through that mood, it's difficult. But later on, when we analyze and say that now I'm in a better shape and I realize why I didn't go, I can do it some other time. Yes, no.
Service
I wish my wife was here. She is a strong advocate of that. So she's very talented. So she tells everyone that, and especially because she knows what ladies go through. I wouldn't know, and otherwise the way things are, because children grow up also, then they don't need you as much, and people have their own lives, and physical frailty is also there. So she's into crochet and she likes to cook recipes and so on. So she very strongly advocates to many of the younger Matajis who are close to her that cultivate a habit, have that habit. So it's not a worry that it's going to take over your life, but it's something which you need to be, because your mind is otherwise restless, and definitely, and if it's something which is creative or something which you're good at, those are the hobbies. I mean, I don't think anyone has a hobby of going to the race course, or so that's not a worry. So these are things. I'm quoting what she's been saying to others, and what I hear, but I think it's important.
So I'm sorry that we have to go to the temple room, otherwise we disrupt that program.
Yeah.
So if one or two I saw you have a question, you can stay back, you can answer the question. But rest of you, please, I have to request. So we're going to enthusiastically thank Prabhuji for giving us this time and sharing this amazing wisdom about a topic that we all struggle with and will continue to struggle with.
I join you in the struggles. We all continue.
Prabhuji in the morning said, juggle is the struggle. We keep juggling. How to keep things in order, keep things happy, keep things peaceful, but it's a struggle at the end of the day. So, but we have to find joy in that struggle, and as Prabhuji said, we have to continue to try to do the right things, and as he said, keep making that effort. So, let us thank Prabhuji very enthusiastically by chanting the Maha Mantra together. Hare
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare.
And we also seek his blessings so that we can actually practice some of the principles that he shared today in the session. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Thank you all of you. I know we come in the morning, now in the evening, and I will stay another program. So this is a Super Saturday. America में बोलते हैं Super Saturday means बहुत सारे sports games होते थे. Like कोई ये match हो रहा है, कोई वो match हो रहा है.